In this problem, we need to solve the equation, the square root of the quantity 9x minus 2 plus 1 equals 5. Well, what type of equation do we have here? If you notice, there's a square root here. It's a radical equation. And how many square roots do I have in this equation? There's only one square root. So let's quickly review the steps for solving a radical equation involving one square root. The first thing we need to do is isolate the square root. Well, is this square root isolated on the left-hand side of the equation? No, I have this 1 in the way, so I'm going to have to subtract 1 from both sides. So I'm going to just get left with the square root of 9x minus 2 on the left-hand side equals 5 minus 1 is 4. So we've completed step 1. Step 2 says to square both sides of the equation in order to remove the radical. So I'm going to square the left-hand side and I'm going to square the right-hand side. Well, what do you get when you square a square root? They undo each other and you're just left with the radicand, which is the fancy name for the thing that lives underneath the square root. So I get 9x minus 2 on the left-hand side equals 4 squared. Well, 4 times 4 is 16. So now we have completed step 2. Now moving on, step 3 says simplify and solve the resulting equation. Well, what type of equation do I have here? The highest degree on an x is a 1. It's a linear equation. So I need to isolate the x on one side, so I'm going to leave it on the left-hand side. So I'm just going to add 2 to both sides of the equation. And when I do that, negative 2 plus 2 is 0, so I get 9x equals 16 plus 2 is 18. Last step, how do I get x by itself? Divide both sides by 9. The 9's reduce, and I get left with x equals 18 divided by 9 is 2. So I've completed step 3, but don't forget there is a step 4. You must check for extraneous solutions. And that means I take my solution and plug it into the original equation. So I have to check it. And so I'm going to get the square root of 9x, so 9 times what's x? 2, minus 2, that's all underneath the radical, plus 1 equals 5. And I have to check to see if this is a true statement. So I get the square root of 9 times 2 is 18, minus 2 under the radical, plus 1 should equal 5. The square root of 18 minus 2 is the square root of 16 plus 1 should equal 5. Square root of 16 is 4. Does 4 plus 1 equal 5? Yes, 4 plus 1 is 5. 5 equals 5. It's a true statement. So I have a good solution. I know that x equals 2 is a solution to my equation.